Present. And with that, we will move to Representative Greiner.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to get right into it. Being from Lancaster County, have a lot of questions. Mr. Secretary, PA's permitting process, particularly in my area, it's been identified as costly, time-consuming, redundant, and particularly for our well-managed and operated dairy farms. Is it possible that DEP can implement a more agriculturally focused permitting process, possibly in conjunction or directed by the Department of Agriculture, to reduce time, costs, and redundancy? And then, for example, can DEP consider a pre-certification program that accounts for and credits the best management practices that exist on well-managed farms and credit those farms with a holistic approach to their permits, focuses on all best management practices on the farm, and expedites this permitting process? We have problems in Lancaster County, and that's question number one. I have two more then.
Well, I will attempt to answer quickly then. I've been particularly focused, I joke at meetings that I probably see Russ Redding more than I see my wife these days in terms of the interaction with ag. One of the things I've identified in particular for our staff as a thing to be worked on is, in particular in some of these spaces within the agricultural community, some of what is being proposed is I will say, additive, right? It's beneficial environmentally. It's better management of manure, for example. So how we figure out how we expedite those kind of processes in particular is a key piece. We want to make sure we're identifying all of the best management practices, both to ensure that we're managing our own water quality, but particularly in Lancaster County and the effects on the Chesapeake Bay and our obligations there. We want to have a really good understanding and really work in partnership to make sure we're getting as much nutrient reduction as we can within the Bay watershed.
You talk about working with Russ. I mean, right now we have the conservation people kind of doing DEP work, which kind of makes me wonder whether ag should be, whether you should be kind of taking away some of what you do and give it right to ag. Is that a possibility too with some of the, is that a possibility also? Am I kind of shedding off and letting them do some of the work?
Well,
under their budget?
No, I'd point out we've had a long-standing relationship with the conservation districts where they've been reviewing certain permitted activities for us. This latest within the Bay watershed is another version of that. And we actually work particularly with the districts in a cooperative way through the State Conservation Commission. Right now I'm actually the chair of the State Conservation Commission. Secretary Redding and I trade that off. So I'd say the framework for how we accomplish that is already there in terms of making sure that we are fully cognizant of concerns on all sides. I think that relationship is as good as it's ever been in terms of working through that with the districts.
Let me ask you, and this could be asked in the maybe shale region too, but is it possible for the agency to move towards a more agricultural specific, at least in my area, permitting standard, rather than it seems like we have a one-size-fits-all statewide? Like I said, same question could be asked from a colleague in the shale region. Or can we, I mean, I do think there's problems with efficiency in this department, and I'm hoping we can work towards it. Maybe you can expound on that a little bit.
And I'd say we are doing a ton of work on efficiency right now and a ton of work on consistency across programs and across regions. On the specifics with agriculture, I think there's a number of things on the table. Some of it's the way we bring in and process information, but some of it is also whether there are general permit opportunities and things like that within the area.
And then just finally here, as my time is winding down, how much money does your agency receive in total from reimbursement of services related to the interagency permit review, such as PennDOT's permit project reviews? And now, this is just another unfortunate. PennDOT, I think they're frustrated because it seems like their permitting process is no longer being expedited. They're not getting answers necessarily in a timely fashion. Maybe can you explain what's going on there and how this interagency, review works and give an idea of what fees are generated? Which, by the way, isn't a bad idea. In-house might be a great idea.
I'd say two things. One, on the specific number, I'd have to get that for you. But two, there's really really two elements to what we manage within PennDOT. One is the traditional kind of ICE T21 work, where they're funding some positions and we were reviewing permits specifically within the PennDOT context. When we did the P3 projects, those were not put within that same area, so they were put into the more traditional permitting track. When I came in, there was a couple issues related, one, to some positions not being filled, and two, just to the way the work was being prioritized. I think we have corrected that now, and I think most of those projects now, unless there's a blip here or there, are moving quickly, because again, we're in this particular case talking about Commonwealth money, federal dollars, things to put people to work. So we've been working to move those projects, and if there's specific scenarios, I would welcome a separate conversation.
I appreciate that. You might meet with a number of our colleagues from
Absolutely.
Lancaster County. Thank you, Mr.
Certainly.
Chairman.
Thank you.